Hello, everybody. Andy here from Glass Half Dead, the #1 kill team channel on YouTube. Unless, of course, you are aware of any other YouTube channel, like literally any. Hi. So, if you go to Warcom and you go to downloads and you click on kill team, you will find that we have a whole load of new things. Let's talk about those. Now, we knew that something was going to drop today. We had assumed it would only be the XV-26 stealth battle suits, and somewhere in here are the Space Wolves as well. Because, in case you don't know, when we get our quarterly expansion, then Wednesday before it releases on store shelves, we get the rules for free on the app. Very good, big fan, love it. I was expecting to just have this pop up and it would just be two things. Nice. Instead, we have a little bit more. Now, they've made a big improvement because you're looking at this and you're thinking, okay, Andy, clearly they just updated the universal equipment. And because of the way that they do everything, what they've done is anytime universal equipment gets updated, because universal equipment appears in every single PDF, what they've done is they've just said, oh, there you go. That's that, isn't it? No, they have not done that. They have advanced themselves. They're progressing. So all of these other team rules down here have also had their universal equipment updated technically. But that is not what these are. Everything here are new updated rules, and we are going to go over all of them. However, a minor addendum to that. The thing is, what they've actually added here, a lot of people will already know about. If you recall, we had Worlds. Before Worlds, we got given the new, like, pre-world, no, say it correctly. We got given the balance patch before Worlds, and it was ready. It was ready, like, the week before Worlds, we got it. Cool. This isn't that. What this is a series of, I'm gonna call them hidden FAQ erratas that Worlds had access to but were not published. So what we have here are not balance changes, they are FAQ erratas, okay? In general. However, if you were paying attention at Worlds or whatever, or your TO was paying attention at Worlds and you've played since Worlds, you will probably have already seen a lot of this. So if you're looking through it and you're thinking a lot of this is actually very familiar, if you've played recently and you're hooked into the community, you may already be playing with these rules. A common one is, for example, they've updated the Tomb World core rules. And what they've updated that with is we get to it, but basically the tournament that I played on the weekend was already using that rule. And I hadn't realized that it was, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that was a rule. He said, yep, it's something they used at Worlds, which is a good rule change, to be clear. We will get to it. There's also, hey, the Tomb World mission pack. So if you want the Dead Silence rules for like the campaign, the solo stuff, it's right there. You can print it off. Very good. In fact, can we look at it? What do we actually get in here? Yeah. So do we get all of the stuff? Get all of that, of course. Okay, they've just updated it to give us threat levels. Okay, great, fine. All right, nice. Okay, right. Let's begin. We're going to start with the core stuff that everybody needs to know. So with the core, the equipment, the kill zones, the approved ops. We're then going to go to the new teams because the new teams have also been touched in a way that I imagine you expect they would have been. Let's be clear. And then we'll look at the important teams like Deathwatch and Canoptek, and then we'll look at everything else. Okay, let's start. And of course, where are we starting? We are starting with a subscriber-only benefit, and that is a big double hello. Wow, so wholesome. Truly the wholesomest knows no bounds in the world of Glass Half Dead. Hey, if you want to click my affiliate links, that would be awesome. Whether it's Element Games, Whaling Games, or Red October Games in the UK, I use all three of them. These are the reasons I use them. Wargame Portal in America, or the Northern Citadel in Canada, which is a new one, by the way. Check them out. They're a new store. They reached out to me. Out of the Chan, which obviously speaks very poorly of them if they like me, but it is what it is. You know, we all have our foibles. And then, hey, if you're a kill teamer, check out Crossfire or GG Easy. great ways to transport your minis or just general game aids. Again, that is AIDS. I will not take the libel and slander that is people saying I meant the other type of aids, just to be clear on that, throwing it out there. All right, let's get into it. So, I need to zoom in on this, don't I? So everything here is going to be in the new November 25, right? That's what we've had. So, again, a lot of these are very small changes. If you read this kill zones, terrain and movement jumping, this here, I was racking my brain to figure out what have they changed? Like, what? I remember that we had the jumping update. Is this just that and I've misremembered? The answer is no. They have actually added something. They've reworded it ever so slightly. So you see here, they've taken this away. However, when jumping from a terrain feature, if it has a rampart, you must climb it first. They have changed this and put it into here, which was another sentence, but you still have to pay the climb for a rampart. They haven't removed that. But you have to jump from a vantage terrain. So you cannot jump from a terrain feature. You jump from a vantage terrain. They just reworded it for some reason. Cool. A change to precedence, a change I actually like, to be honest with you. So it used to be you go down your list of precedents. I have done a video called search Glass Half Dead updated kill team rules, something like that. I don't know. Where I kind of went down all of the rules that they have changed since Kill Team 24 released. One of those is about precedence, is like when, if, before. And then it goes to the player with initiative decides. And that was always a little bit confusing because what they mean by a player with initiative is whoever actually holds the initiative for the whole turn, even if what's happening basically doesn't involve you, kind of. Now, the active operatives controlling player decides before the player with initiative. This feels far more natural to me. I like this change. Makes more sense. We then get blah, blah, blah for Killzone Tomb World. It and the following to the first bullet point of the guard action moves or is set up. I don't know. Again, I'm sure that this was either tweaking one interaction that messed with the rule, or um, you've got people that were trying to be weird and like, oh well, technically they're not moving, so they can stay on guard when I teleport them, etc., etc. It's fine. That's gone now. And again, to on guard, if you do that, friendly operative cannot counteract during the turning point. Now, clearly this might be me misremembering, but I thought that if you were guarding, you couldn't. I thought we already had that. This feels like such a small change to what we had before, where we did have like you can't, if you guard you can't counteract, and if you counteract you can't guard. Or maybe they only say they're making really small changes, is all I'm saying. Okay, cool. Right. Let's go to the rules commentary because that's going to be more interesting, I think. So, if an operative on guard interrupts to perform a free action, is it during an activation for the purposes of firefight ploys or other rules? Answer is yes. Note that you cannot use rules for that action that specify they must be used during this operative's activation. To perform a free action, guard. An operative on guard interrupts to perform a free action. Is it during an activation? Perform a free action. Are you interrupting to perform a free action? Oh, I suppose guard was your action, and then when you're guarding, you're not actually performing. Right. Interesting. Okay. That makes sense. They're just kind of clarifying that guard, similar to counteract, that you cannot use this for. Fuck me, I hate these rules. What are they doing? Who gives a shit? Jesus Christ. Like, make a better rule set. I don't know. Why is it this complicated? I'm going to go on a rant. I'm doing it. Okay, guys. Here's the thing. The Kill Team's a great game. Let's be clear. However, the way they choose to write the rules is absolutely insane. They are not writing the rules for humans. They're writing the rules for computers, which is fine. That's a way to do it. It's a way to organize your information. But then, so if you're doing that, if you're writing your rules that way, the rules should be spot on perfect because they are not readable rules, right? They're not designed for you to read and immediately understand them. You have to read them genuinely from the bottom up, and you will understand the rules better than if you read them from the top down. But that's fine. That's their choice. But so you would assume that if they're writing them in such an incomprehensible and unreadable way, that they would be correct. Why do they have such loopholes in a system that they have already written with the specific intent of being correct over readable? Do one or the other. If you're going to make them unreadable, get them right. Fuck me. This is so frustrating to read through. Okay. Again, I love the game. It's a great game. It is genuinely one of GW's best games. But Jesus Christ. Okay. If an operative is activated and immediately expended without performing any actions, can an operative on guard interrupt that activation? No. If an operative performs a free action outside of the firefight phase, can firefight ploys be used by a player in response to that action? No. Firefight ploys cannot be used outside the firefight phase unless specifically stated within the ploy. I actually like this cleanup. This is very obvious, but it's a good note because obviously we are getting a few more rules. Obviously, we're thinking of the wolf. But there's also the Harnkin gun guy, pistol guy, bombast, that can do what we would normally consider something to be done in the firefight phase outside of the firefight phase. So it's good that this is cleaned up. No, you cannot react to it because you are not in the firefight phase. What happens if an operative's APL stat is reduced during its activation? That operative can only spend AP, blah, blah, blah. I'm not reading that. Basically, it's fine. You know how it works? The way you will think it works. There you go. Yes, good. I think this, and there's another one, which will come up later. They stem from, I think, people's confusion over how the rules were written in the last edition, 21, to how APL was written in the new edition, 24. Because although if you played last edition, we all think of them being the same, they're actually relatively different. Before, which is why now in this edition, APL doesn't make any sense. It shouldn't be APL. APL limit, action point limit, there's no limit. We don't need that word. Doesn't make it's actually a very confusing word now. It should just be action points. In the last edition, it made sense. Now it doesn't. We no longer generate activation points or action points in the same way. So this feels like a holdover asked by people from last edition that have not yet mentally updated how new things actually work. And 99% of the time, that'll be fine. You don't need to know how new things actually work. That's okay, because they work 99% the same. If an operative can perform the shoot action while within control range of an enemy operative, e.g. Starstorm Duelist, can it perform the shoot action on the other side of a door that's ignored when determining visibility for the purposes of control range, even though the target isn't visible to it? Answer, no. I actually thought this had already been answered, but I like that they've answered it, again, because they're just confirming it. Good. This is a question that comes up very often. Another one is squigs. So if your squig runs in and blows up, you are performing a shoot action as that blow up action, and you cannot blow up through stronghold doors. Very important to remember that. If you're a Wrecker Crew guy or girl, we then get the Universal Equipment Update log. So here we go. If in the app you have had it show that your team has updated and you've gone to update and you can't, this is the reason why. It's a bug with the app. Don't worry about it. Basically, you can stack ignore piercing. Now, that's quite interesting. Normally, you can't stack things like that. Like, for example, keywords. You can't stack piercing. You can't have piercing 1 go to piercing 2 with 2 iterations of piercing 1. But you can apparently stack. You're sure the one that has the piercing 2 weapon rule. Can I use the effects of a smoke grenade for use of equipment? But you can stack ignore piercing, which to me is very odd. Very, very odd decision. I'm not against it as a rules mechanic, but for consistency, I probably would have said no. If you just say you cannot stack anything, then that kind of like takes care of itself, both on the positive and the negative. So this is an odd choice for me. But yeah, there you go. We then have some approved ops, which is interesting here. So recon, tac op, flank. I have had so many questions about flank. So anything that makes this clearer is good. So an operative contests a flank while both wholly within it and wholly within their opponent's territory. Cool, fine. So I assume that the word wholly wasn't in there. So it would have read an operative contests a flank while both wholly within it and within their opponent's territory. Great. Well, fine. This would have made it easier to obviously then deny it to the opponent. Now you wouldn't be scoring it yourself, but you do have to be wholly within it. So there are teams that like to stand on the center line. They are now no longer denying flank, which is good to know. And then we get security tack up envoy. You cannot select an operative you selected during a previous turning point or an operative that's ignored for the kill op. I'm going to say it now. Everybody, I've just recorded a video talking about me cheating in a game of Kill Team, a tournament, in fact. And let's be clear, I asked the TO before I did this. I actually used Envoy on an expendable operative. Okay, I'm throwing it out there. This rule had not been announced by then, and I asked the TO, and he said, "Yes, you definitely can do that." Cool. It was a Wrecker Squig, not a Canoptech Warrior, so don't hate me too much. And this was brought in after that, so it's fine. Ooh, good. I think this is very good because it will nerf Canoptech Circle a little bit. Not that I think that Canoptech Circle were really doing Envoy, but fine. But they get rules commentary. This is a long one. Feel free to listen to another podcast, get out your audiobook, get out your Kindle as I read this off. Jesus Christ. What a lovely rule set. For the dominate tag up, when does it count as a friendly operative incapacitating an enemy operative if it's not immediately clear? So, for example, it is possible sometimes for you to kill yourself. Does the enemy get a dominate point? Which is a very fair question to ask. It's counted if a friendly operative can be identified as directly causing the incapacitation. This always includes instances where a friendly operative was required to perform an action or retaliate for that enemy operative to be incapacitated, e.g., Sanctify a Blaze, as well as rules that specify an operative in a required location, e.g., Tesla Weave or Screaming Rust Spikes. If rules on an operative's data card inflict damage, they are included, e.g. Rattling Bomber Mine. But indirect sources, e.g. damage from a mine that was selected as an additional equipment option through Hearthkin Lugger, well supplied, wouldn't be. What? I don't think that's as clear as they think it is. If multiple friendly operatives could be identified as causing the incapacitation, select one of them to gain the related dominate token. Cool. You know what? I don't even know what that means. I was with it. I was with it until they mentioned the lugger. But indirect, I've got to go see what it is. I'm sorry. I have to find out what the lugger is. Why is that different? God damn it. Guys, why would they do this to me? Okay, so this is for the Hearthkin Salvagers. Damage from a mine that was selected as an additional equipment option doesn't count. Because it's not on their data card? Hearthkin Salvager. Lugger. This is bloody brilliant TV, isn't it? So, you can select one additional equipment option. Why wouldn't that count? What? Indirect okay, guys, stay with me. If rules on an operative data card inflict damage, they are included. Because the Rattling Bomber Mine. Oh, okay. Right. Hold on. Are you saying that if an enemy runs into my equipment option mine, I don't get the kill? I did not know that, actually. That's a bit crazy to me. I genuinely would have thought it's my mine. You ran into it. That also means then, I guess, that all mines. No, not all mines, sorry. But like the equipment mines. And I was thinking, oh, I guess that's the only mine. I was thinking of Hypex mines from Harnkin Jaegers, but they're on the datasheet of the mine guy. And obviously, Phobos mines are on their data sheets. What a strange ruling. But okay. Doesn't that mean that crack and frag grenades don't give you the kill because they're not on your data card? No, because you had to do a thing to make. Okay. Wow, I have rarely liked a rule less. Thanks, G-dubs. Fucking. How does the expendable/expendable construct rule, e.g., crew, bomb squig, or warrior, similar rule? I swear they write these to just trigger me. Fucking hell. Work when it rule that is incapacitated. So, the expendable rule only affects the below tac ops for this purpose and does so as follows. For sweep and clear, a swept token is not gained. For dominate, a dominate token is not gained. For rout, VP are not gained. For martyrs, a martyr token is not gained. For seal intelligence, an intelligence mission marker is not placed. Cool. Okay, that's nice. They're just kind of clearing up that basically, hey guys, we fucked up the expendable rule. It should mean more than what we wrote. Cool, I like it. I don't quite know why they didn't just include envoy in this, but that's fine. Same diff. They don't count for it. I think that's probably the correct call as well, if I'm honest. Okay, Errata. God, I'm a salty bitch today, aren't I? I do apologize, everybody. I do apologize. Right. So here we go. What is this? The 2 mod? Oh, yeah. So I actually like this. This is a dumb thing for them to have to Errata. But yes, they're just saying, hey guys, in the past, we made changes just to Killzone Gallodark. Any changes we made for that are included in Tomb World as well. I like that. Good. Any relevant Errata in the Kill Team core book should be applied to this kill. Yes. Cool. Good. I like it. Very good. Oh, wait. Yes. Okay, so the 2-inch teleport pad already existed. Okay, you see, I'm forgetting where they actually did things. We have the Wolf Scouts rules, and they've made one change to the pack leader once per battle after rolling off to the side initiative. Cool. Okay. Now, you might be wondering, what did this used to be? And I've got a very interesting factoid that the word instead of after was when. So it used to read once per battle when rolling off to decide initiative. Okay. Now it says once per battle after rolling off to decide initiative. Okay. Great. I guess. I have to assume this was done. So I'm going to say that this was done purely for consistency's sake with the approved ops wording and not because people saw the word when and decided to get real stupid with it. Okay. Like, oh, well, how can I roll when I'm doing it? I have to re-roll after I've rolled. That would be insane. Those people don't exist. I've made up a straw man. Those people don't exist. This was just for consistency. I'm moving on before I get triggered at the idea that those people do exist and play the same game as me. So we then get the stealth soups. Now, I had read quite a few people wondering, like, hey, how does certain things for this team work? Specifically, the lodestar. And I'm going to answer that for you. It has not been FAQ errated because it doesn't need to be. So, what has been errated is they've actually made. So, firstly, they've done some weird thing with the savior protocols. The friendly drone operative is only in cover or obscured if the original. I don't even know what that was. You have to use savior protocols against a drone. Presumably, they updated this to go in line with new blast wording. Makes sense. And then they've made drones expendable. So that is actually a relatively large nerf to the team because it used to be a 7 model team. Now it's a 5 model team when it comes to kill op and such. And so they no longer count for any of your kill op, etc., etc. While I'm here, let's quickly go and answer how the lodestar works. Lodestar. Ooh, where's the lodestar's stuff? So here we go. A lot of people had the question here about homing beacon. They were wondering, they thought, perhaps, I've read, that they felt that they would be able to. So there's 2 things here. Firstly, does the homing beacon need to be placed so that you can score your additional command point? And is there a way to score it in the first turning point? The answer is a definitive no to both. So if you go and read how markers are treated, as long as a person is holding the marker, it is in the kill zone. That's fine. So it's there, it exists. So you can basically just move your loci. You never have to drop your homing beacon, to be clear. And you move him up, and as long as he is over 6 inches from your drop zone, you will get at least 1 command point. The other thing there was they felt that they could score or get an additional command point in the first turn, but there is no way in the game to ever start the game out over 6 inches from your drop zone. So what it says here is, in the ready step of each strat phase, when you gain command points, if your homing beacon marker is in the kill zone, which it always is, unless this guy's dead, roll 1d6 if it's more than 6 inches from your drop zone. There you go. That's it. I assume that a lot of people just misread that. But there you go. As long as this guy is within 6 of your drop zone, you cannot score this. Cool. Easy. Easy stuff. We then come to the Death Watch. The true team of load masters here. They've just given us another little tab. Really odd. I've read this, and I don't know why they've said this, but this is about the Disruptor Operative. Note that it doesn't have to be this operative performing the shoot action, and that any subsequent shoot actions during that activation/counter action must meet these same requirements. I have to assume that what happened here is somebody sat there, shot with the disruptor, moved to somewhere where they were no longer like a legal target of any sort, and said, oh, well, because I used the disruptor ability, I can shoot even though I don't have valid target or anything. Something like that. So they've just tightened that up, which is nice. Good. Love to hear it. We then have a lot for Canoptek Circle. We got diagrams and shit, dog. Damn. Let's do it. There's a lot here. Okay. So faction rules, obelisk node matrix. In fact, obelisk node matrix for the faction rules and animate obelisk nodes. They've just added the word horizontally. There you go. Now, I don't know why this was needed, to be honest with you, because there's no way for you to interact with the obelisk node matrices, so it's not like you ever need to hide them. But yeah, when they say horizontally, what that means is that you basically just put down a big, in this case, 3-inch aura, and you can move them up, down, wherever you want. Their physical height in relation to the kill zone on a vantage range doesn't matter. But there you go. Now they are just cool, good, I suppose. Also, the Geomancer cannot do retrieve. Now, retrieve, unless I'm mistaken, is where it costs you additional action points to do the mission action, depending on the turn. And presumably by the node control thing, it would have allowed you to do it essentially for free, or for 1 AP on turn 2, where it wouldn't be needed. I think. There you go. So let's look about the rules commentary. In the example provided in this team's rules, where all 3 obelisk node markers are within 6 inches, is the area between these markers the entire triangle or just the 20 mil wide lines directly between the markers? The 20 mil wide lines. Now, although the what's it called? The diagram is very clear that this is what it means. I actually do think this was needed, because even me, the first time I read it, I was like, are we supposed to just create this triangle? Because you are within, right? Once you've closed those 3 points off, you are inside it. So the clarification is good just because of how the English language works. Nice. When obelisk node markers are moved, are they affected by accessible terrain? No. Good. I think that's the correct call. Glad to see it noted. When determining control from an obelisk node marker using the Canoptek Circle Geomancer's obelisk node control rule, do I use the Geomancer's APL stat to determine control? No. Good. How should I resolve it if I attempt to use a strat ploy using the nodal response firefight ploy, but that strategy ploy is cancelled by an opponent's rule? Oh, so this comes up lots of times. In fact, a lot of these things we're about to read, this is the only FAQ errata that has popped up. So, in fact, every team that has some sort of interrupt, this is the change that's made. And this is actually very good, because in the past, there wasn't really correct answer. And you got into some real, interesting time dilation mechanics of what's actually happened. So I'm going to answer it in a more generic way now. If there is any sort of cancel an action, and there aren't many. I think there's only 2 in the game. Maybe there's 3. And you have an interrupt, and you interrupt, and part of your interrupt means you have to attack the opponent, which is normally what happens. But then you get your attack cancelled. What happens? Have you attacked the opponent? If the answer is no, then you couldn't have interrupted in the first place, right? And so it's like, oh, chicken and egg, etc., etc. Now the answer is just no. So you can either use a different strat ploy or have the CP for both that strat ploy and nodal response refunded. That is not quite what I was thinking of. It will come up again, but yeah, cool. So if another warrior operative is set up as a result of the Assisa scattering rule, does it count as a new operative for the purposes of other rules? Yes. The weird thing here is it says approved ops 2025 envoy tac op, which they also just noted that it can't count as that. So I'm a little bit confused about that one because this is an expendable operative and that cannot be an envoy. So it's what it is. It's fine. In kill zones that use the close quarters rules, how do I measure the horizontal area between my obelisk node markers to create my obelisk node matrix if there is wall terrain partially intervening between them? Now, I think this is a very fair thing to answer because there's nothing really in these that say that, like, you have to draw a straight line. You cannot measure between the obelisk node markers if wall terrain is intervening. This means the obelisk node matrix does not curve around walls. It must be a single straight line. There you go. Cool. Good for them to clarify. Easy one. And then I swear this has been answered. No? Okay. When using the matrix manipulator faction equipment to measure my obelisk node matrix, do I measure a 20 mil wide line, as with all other markers, straight to the canoptek? No, you don't. A widening shape to all facing parts of its base. Again, I think this is actually a fair thing to clarify. It is a weird thing, but yep, your 20 mil node marker goes to the 50 mil base in the cone as you draw all other kind of target lines, etc. in the game. Good. We then get the Vespids, and they've updated an FAQ, Errata, I guess, FAQ, for how the Squad Guard Torch Zone works. So I didn't know this needed this. So in kill zones that use the close quarters rules, does the Vespid Stingwing Swarm Guard's Torch Zone for the Sky Torch weapon will bend around any wall terrain that's intervening? Answer yes. Then they give an example not from the close quarters rules, which is a bit confusing. But there you go. Cool. Now, I've got to be honest, I hadn't realized that the implication here is that you're not allowed to move, like, in anything other than a straight line when you're swarming. Otherwise, why would this question be asked? I don't know. But there you go. Cool. Sanctifiers, a faction I learned literally nothing about. If I use the Sanctifier Confessor's commanding declamation rule to cancel a fight or shoot action that my opponent attempted to perform as a result of their operative being on guard, can my opponent then choose to use the other action instead during that interruption? Answer yes. This is big, actually. So, yeah, this is quite a nerf to them, to the Sanctifiers. This would have been a great way to get around somebody being on guard. So, for example, the enemy is going to shoot you. You have a clear shot to them before they charge you. You're going to take that shot. Confessor says, no, you can't shoot. It's like, okay. Enemy charges you. You can then choose to either fight first or point blank Overwatch still. So that's pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah. I mean, not for Sanctifiers, but yeah. Yeah. So we get the Exaction Squad again. So this is coming down to the same thing that we had with the Canoptek, with the Confessor there. It's like, what happens when you interrupt something? If a friendly operative attempts to shoot or fight against the specified enemy operative in the execution order firefight ploy, but is prevented from doing so by an opponent's rule, is that friendly operative's activation still cancelled? No. Continue its activation as though the requirements of the execution order firefight ploy have been fulfilled. So I think this is a good rule. So this is you saying, I've done my interrupt. I've done the thing that I need to do. The fact that you stopped me from doing it doesn't mean I didn't do it. I'm allowed to continue. And I like that. I think this is setting precedent. This is good. we can take this forward to apply to basically all versions of interrupts and cancels. Good. This is sorry. This is exactly the same, except it's about haunting focus. We then get the honking Jaeger. Now I'm going to be honest. I have no idea what's changed here. Oh, nothing, because this was from October. Okay, get that. That was already changed. Right, Battle Clade, November 25. If a friendly operative has counteracted as a result of the newspaper network faction rule, can it go on guard later in the turn point during its activation? Answer no. That's a very good clear up, because I wouldn't have necessarily thought that was the answer. Unless this has been put in here to tie in with the change to the core rules where they said you can't counteract if you've guarded, or guard if you counteracted at all. Basically, these are two completely separate things. You're either guarding or you're counteracting. Cool. I like it. And this is just clarifying, because this is one of the teams that could potentially do weird things with counteracts and such. I would also have to assume, because you can do that with other teams, I feel, but maybe not. If they haven't included it, but if you do have a team that allows you to perform a shoot action as if it's a counter action, I think that Hybrid Circle can do that, right? I would assume that we apply the same logic to Hybrid Circle, even though they have not FAQ errated Hybrid Circle. How does the System Exism Firefly play interact with rules that apply an effect to operatives only while they are within a specific area? System Exism has no effect in these scenarios. I don't know what that means. And it's Battleclade. Nobody knows what it means, because it's Battleclade. Nobody plays them. Cool. When using the System Exism Firefly ploy to remove a rules effect where multiple identical tokens can be given to an operative, do I remove all of these tokens or one? All of the tokens. Good. Sure. The crazy thing is, I like Battleclade and I want to play them. I just don't know what System Exism is. And I already spent so long figuring out that Hearthkin Lugger thing that I can't keep going back to it. Scouts haven't had an update. I don't know why they were included. Why have they been included? I don't know. All right. Oh, you know something I always forget? It's the core rules. If you scroll down further, sometimes they have additional updates. Do I need to do that here? No. Okay, I did get them all this time. Well done, me. Well done, me. Where are the rattlings? Here we go. Right. So, Battle Mutt Operative, early warning rule. Once per turning point, after an enemy operative performs an action in which it moves or is set up, you can interrupt to use this rule. Okay. That's activation / counteraction. So they've just made the wording more generic. It doesn't have to be done in an enemy's activation or counteract. Which I suppose, thinking about it, is probably to do with, again, things like the upcoming Wolf Scouts charge rule. Because they're charging, and maybe they feel it's not an activation or counteraction because it's in the strat phase instead of the firefight phase, and they've just removed that potential. I don't know. It is still an action, to be clear, but you never know. They've also updated the sneak operative to work. This is done presumably to work with the new how your Scarpa rule works now, I assume. So basically, and again, they've changed the activation counteraction, removed, and just said you can just do it. You don't. It's not triggered off an activation or counteraction. It's an interrupt of anything, which is fine. Rules commentary. If an operative performs an action in which it moves or is set up outside of the firefight phase, which, as we've already discussed, can a rattling battle bot still interrupt with its early warning rule? Answer yes. Okay, cool, good. I like it. As we get new rules that we haven't really seen precedent before, why not clear it up, right? So, Errata, Tremor Scythe. Again, we've had this change here. You can interrupt. Okay, so let's read it, okay? You can interrupt, and they've removed that enemy operative's activation / counteraction to use this rule. It now just reads, you can interrupt to use this rule. And then they've added once per turning point in the firefight phase. So, cool. We now know that means if that wolf boy charges at you in the strat phase, you can't interrupt it. It's interesting. Probably good. Probably good. It obviously how often is this gonna come up? Very limited, I imagine, but it is good to have it there. Yeah, right. Also, it says, "If possible and relevant." I have no idea why they added that. If possible kind of means, is it relevant? This seems redundant additional words. I would actually be legitimately interested in why they added that. Um, yeah. Th th this seems redundant, but they clearly felt like, "No, we have to add words. It's important for something," and I don't know why. There you go. And then we have some commentary, of course. If a friendly Ravener Tremor Scythe operative attempts to shoot or fight against the specified enemy operative in its subterranean ambush rule, but is oh, okay, right. But is prevented from doing so, have you done it? Again, I like that this is being answered. The fact they have to answer it on everyone is a bit of a shame, but that's fine. So, what happens? But is prevented from doing so by an opponent's rule. Is the activation slash counteraction still cancelled? No. Continue its activation slash counteraction as though the requirements of the subterranean ambush rule have been fulfilled. So this is actually a buff for sanctifiers here, because you're you're moving up. Tremor Scythe comes up, he's gonna get you. You block it, and before you could have, as the Ravener, said, "Oh, you stopped my thing, so I didn't interrupt, so I'm going back below." Right? So you've spent your, once per game, whatever, commanding declamation, but because I technically never interrupted you, I'm not out. I'm here. Um, right? Whereas now they're saying no, you've used it, and the tremor scythe is just still stood there. There you go. We get the Felgor. Now this is a good one. This is mainly, as far as I can tell, to do with flank. So you count as an APL stat of 1, presumably because for the purpose of determining control of markers, they counted as APL stat of 1 when they're frenzied. Cool, makes sense. But you could then say, oh, but on flank, I'm not determining control of a marker. I'm determining control of an area, right? Now it's APL stat of 1. Cool, good. I think that's a good errata. I guess. Sad that it has to be said, but it's fine. Then we got the Goremongers. They've just added how jumping works here. So we don't need to talk about that. You have to be at least 2 inches higher than the kill zone floor to perform a jump. There you go. Nice. It still has to be from vantage terrain, but that was already in the wording. And that's it. That's everything. Wow. I got a little bit triggered at the beginning because, you start just rattling through these and like, there's so many petty questions and it's all worded so complicatedly. There's like, who does this matter to? Why are they written this way? But I powered through. I powered through. So well done me. You know what? If you made it to the end of the video and managed to get through my salt at the beginning, I would like to give you a big triple hello. Truly, no salt on Glass Half Dead. 10-10, 0 salt. If you're watching me, you're not getting your electrolytes because there's no salt on this channel ever. Do consider checking out Element Wayland or Red October games in the UK. I use all of them. Do consider checking out the Northern Citadel in Canada or Wargame Portal in America. And hey, anytime you buy any Warhammer, even if you don't like me, but you're here somehow 45 minutes later, click on somebody's affiliate link. It costs you nothing extra. It supports somebody that you like. There you go. And of course, I have some cool stuff that you should definitely be buying if you want to transport your kill teams or have some cool game aids. AID, ES, yes, I had somebody mad at me. I'm going to stop talking about it now. It was funny. ES, okay? Me personally, for the GG Easy, I use these little rulers all the time. Like this, I literally don't go anywhere without these rulers. I think they're mandatory. From Crossfire, this token caddy. That's what life is all about. Token caddy from Crossfire, measuring sticks from GG Easy. Go check them both out. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'll see you next week to tell you all about how I cheated in a kill team tournament last weekend.